Hey guys, it's Haley and welcome to another bookish video. Today I am here with my 2024 mid-year book freakout tag. This is the one tag video I will literally do every single year, no questions asked. It is by far my favorite and it feels like vintage booktube era, so I am very happy to be sitting here filming it today for you guys. If you've never watched a mid-year book freakout tag video, we are basically just going to be wrapping up my reading for the first half of the year, naming some superlatives. I'll let you know my best books, my worst books, my surprises, my disappointments, everything I'm looking forward to for the latter half of 2024, and we're just gonna have a lot of fun talking about the amazing books that I've read so far this year. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it, starting out with the first prompt, which is, of course, what is the best book that you've read so far this year? Now, y'all know I could not just pick one. I never do. So I have a top 5 to talk to you about. I know that's a lot. I couldn't narrow it down. First up, I have Come Closer by Sarah Gran, and this is a horror novella about a woman in the early 2000s who discovers that she is becoming possessed. She is slowly being taken over by this demon. The whole book is a big metaphor for what it's like to be a woman in a domestic situation, just slowly feeling overtaken and overwhelmed by your role as a wife, as a mother, as a woman in the world. I thought not only was the commentary fabulous, but the entire atmosphere of the book was amazing. It takes place in New York City, late 90s Y2K time, so it kind of feels like a Friends-esque kind of atmosphere, but much darker. I loved our main character, the plot, and the horror of it unfolded so great. It was everything that I wanted in a horror book, really, and it was a phenomenal 5-star read. And I actually have another horror book, and that is Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. This is a queer horror book about a girl who goes to a farmer's market and she falls in love with a woman. Like, she's always dated men, she's always been with men, but this girl at the farmer's market is so alluring with her cupcakes and her soap that she just falls in love, and thus ensues her first queer relationship, which turns out to be not quite what she was expecting, to put it lightly. Things get creepier and creepier, and we are increasingly wary of her love interest. Things go absolutely off the rails in this book. It was everything to me. The atmosphere, the twist, the characterization, the queer rep, I just loved it so much. So if you are looking for horror for the girls, those two are immaculate. Another one of my top 5 favorites of the year is a whole series, really, because I kind of lumped them all together, and that is the Witsec series by Ashley N. Rostek. This is a dark romance series. The first book in the series is called Find Me, and we are following our main character, Shiloh. She has just escaped a killer. Okay, the serial killer took out her entire fucking family, and now she is on the run in the witness protection program, trying to escape from said killer who is still on the loose. It has an amazing thriller plot, as you can imagine just from that description, but as I mentioned, this is a dark romance, so it's not just the thriller plot, which does hold up without the romance, but her neighbors next door are these 4 brothers, and it's a reverse harem little moment with all 4 of them, and different combinations and different positions and different configurations, and it's just a whole lot of fun, and a thriller plot, and it's emotional, and it's funny, and it's light, and it's like everything that you could ever want wrapped up in this one series. Of course, it wouldn't be my top 5 favorite books of the year without a Rebecca Searle release. I think her new release has been in my top 5 every single year that I've read her new release. And so her release from 2024 is Expiration Dates. I sobbed on a plane reading this book. It's about a girl who has just kind of like a quirky, weird, magical realism thing happening to her, as is standard in all Rebecca Searle books. This main character, before the beginning of every single relationship she enters, finds a little slip of paper that tells her the name of the person that she will date next and the length of their relationship. That is until the beginning of this book, when all she receives is a piece of paper with a guy's name. And she starts wondering, is this her forever person? But there are other people on the sidelines that she wonders why they're not her person. It is so emotional, really more of a character study than a romance, and the magical realism kind of elements are so interesting. It's kind of like a what would you do type of self-insert situation, and I love books like that. But I was also very, very attached to our main character. I loved her. She was so relatable, so interesting. I just absolutely love Rebecca Searle's writing style. I could read it all day long, and this is by far one of my favorites of the year. And rounding out my top 5, I have my favorite thriller that I've read this year, which is What Happened to the Bennett by Lisa Scottoline. This is another one about the witness protection program. I don't know what it is. This 2024 is like the year of my witness protection program books. I'm obsessed with them. This is a thriller about a family who goes through a very scary, very traumatic situation together, and afterwards they have to be put into witness protection. But the dad of the family starts wondering if the FBI and the people who are supposed to be helping them are actually corrupt and not doing all they can, so he takes matters into his own hands. It reads like an S.A. Cosby book, okay? If you are a fan of S.A. Cosby and you're missing no release from him this year, give this one a read. I promise you, you will love it. It reads like an action movie. The characters are amazing. There's intense emotion. It's so fast-paced. It is just so good. So those are my top 5 of 2024 so far. I don't see a lot of those being dethroned. I mean, it would be really hard to have any of those knocked out of my top 5. So I don't know. It sounds pretty set in stone. And there's no prompts in here to talk about the worst book that you've read so far, but I always add it in every single year that I do this tag because I have to let y'all know. Okay, I have to warn you. And my biggest warning comes for The Lies He Told by Valerie Keough. Okay, I thought this was just gonna be a fun little light thriller about 3 women who are being duped by the same guy, and they all team up to get revenge on him. I thought it was just going to be domestic thriller, rich people, cheating, drama, good for her, like all the little buzzwords that I love for a thriller. Unfortunately, this was such a painful read. It was so boring. Nothing happened. All the characters were insufferable, and the ending was so unsatisfying. So it really had nothing gratifying to it, and it put me in a slump, and I regret ever having it come into my life. I will be selling it on my Pango bookstore if you're interested, but I don't recommend it. The next question is the best sequel that I've read so far in 2024, and of course that has to be The Next Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. This one is about to come out, if it hadn't already come out last week, depending on when I'm posting this video. I don't know, I'm pre-filming, but this is about to come out or it just came out, so run and go get it. If you don't know, The Last Mrs. Parrish is one of my favorite thrillers of all time, so I was ecstatic to get an early copy of this sequel, and it definitely did not disappoint. It has that signature Liv Constantine writing style that is just so juicy, so scandalous. It makes for the perfect pool read, and we are following 3 perspectives of 3 rich, badass women who will stop at nothing and spare no one in their quest to come out on top. Of course, we're following Daphne and Amber from the first book, and we're also following a new perspective that will blow everything. Amber and Daphne have precariously placed wide open. The twists were amazing, the darkness was amazing, just everything about this book was so easy to read. It's the perfect thriller. I will never stop raving about Liv Constantine, I swear. The next question I have a few for the new releases you haven't read yet, but you want to read. So these are ones that are out that I've either ordered or I recently bought and I have on my shelves, but I just haven't gotten around to them yet. Number one is The House That Horror Built by Christina Henry. I also have Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay and How to Make a Horror Movie and Survive by Craig DeLuey. These are all horror books by authors I've read from before and really enjoyed, and they just so happen to all come out with horror movie adjacent books this year, which I absolutely love this trend. I'm gonna be eating it up. Y'all must know, if you've been around for any length of time, I am a horror movie buff. I'm a stan. My dad literally told me the other day, he's like, I don't think anyone has seen more weird random horror movies than you have, and I think he's right. So I have to do a vlog of all of those books. I mean, they are some of my most anticipated releases. They're out. I'm gonna lump them all in a vlog together and get ready for that, probably next month. And of course, I have to read Funny Story by Emily Henry. I actually just bought that one and I'm bringing it to my little staycation that I'm going on with one of my best friends this upcoming weekend. So I will be vlogging that for you guys. I cannot wait. It sounds like it's gonna be a dream. And my most anticipated releases for the latter half of 2024 are definitely So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. Rachel Harrison is one of my favorite authors. I discovered her and really got into her last year. I read Such Sharp Teeth and it was over. Like, that was my best book of last year. I was absolutely obsessed. So I cannot wait for her September release, So Thirsty, which is a vampire romantic horror situation. I am so excited for it. Then of course we have Clown in a Cornfield 3. I've read the first two, loved the first one, was meh on the second one, so I'm excited to see what happens with the third. And we have I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. Stephen Graham Jones is another author that's kind of hit or miss for me, but I'm very excited to see what he does back in where I really enjoyed him, which is writing a classic slasher with a little bit of his signature twist. Next up, I want to talk about my biggest disappointment of the year so far, and that is unfortunately The Z Word. I was so looking forward to this book. I got an early copy of it and I immediately popped that shit in my ears. I was so ready to eat this up and rave about it, especially during Pride Month. I literally read this like just a few days ago and I'm crushed because it did not work out for me. If you don't know about The Z Word, the pitch is Zombieland, but make it gay. Okay, so we're following these mostly lesbian people, but there's also a couple trans people, a non-binary person, a couple just like gay guys. So a lot of LGBTQ representation. I was so excited for this. But the book was supposed to be Zombieland, okay? It was supposed to be zombie apocalypse, weird disease, pandemic spreading and insidiously coming for the gay community, corruption, kind of like conspiracy vibes. I was ready for it. I was so disappointed. This was more about the little catty drama between these characters than it was the actual commentary or the actual horror plot. And unfortunately, these characters were insufferable to me. They all read for some reason like they were like between the ages of like 16 and 19, even though I believe they were supposed to be 30-year-olds. I am 26 and most of my friends are between the age of 26 and 30, and I just, the way that they were relating to each other, it was just like my friends, all of us are in the LGBTQIA community and we don't talk like this. So I don't know, maybe it's just us, maybe we're weird, I don't know, but it was hard. It was a hard read for sure. I wanted a lot more horror from the plot. I barely got any of it. The descriptions were kind of lackluster. It was just really, really disappointing because the pitch sounded perfect. I believe a couple of y'all actually even DM'd me and said like, this is going to be your book, like gay Zombieland, get ready. But unfortunately it didn't work out. I'm so sad. And then of course we have to talk about my biggest surprise of the year so far, which I think we can all guess is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. What's going on? Me, the thriller queen, sucked into a fantasy series? I don't know what to tell y'all, but I ate this shit up. If you missed my Throne of Glass vlog from the very beginning of 2024, I will link it up above and down below. It was an emotional roller coaster. I think I sobbed multiple times. It's over an hour long. I binged them all back to back to back over the course of like a week and a half, 2 weeks. I read so many pages, over 5,000 pages, so quickly because I just was eating it up. Okay, I'm in on the lore and I'm obsessed. And I did not think that I was gonna feel that way at all in the slightest. So yes, I'm very surprised by Throne of Glass, and I will be reading more fantasy. Don't worry, that wasn't a one-off. I just feel like it's summertime, it's time for my slashers, it's time for my cutesy romance, and it's time for my scandalous rich people thrillers. It's not the fantasy time, but when fall hits and winter hits, get ready. I will be doing an ACOTAR read-along on my Patreon in the winter, so if you're interested in that, Patreon's always linked below, just saying. The next prompt is, what is your new favorite author that you discovered this year? And I have to say, the little KU thriller girlies are really doing it for me. Particularly Noelle W. Ely, I absolutely love her. I've read almost every single book in her backlist in the past couple months. I only have one more to read to have completed her entire backlist. So expect an author backlist, a breakdown video on her. And I've also been really enjoying Steph Nelson, just these like quick little twisty KU thrillers. I'm eating them up. They are like crack. I could just read all of them back to back to back. They get me out of a slump. It's just incredible. I have nothing but good things to say about both of them, and I believe they're friends because they've thanked each other in the acknowledgements of their books before, and I think that's really cute. And do I ship them in my mind even though I don't know them and they're unknown authors and I know literally nothing about them and they're probably not gay? Unconfirmed. Also, I do want to clarify, when I say KU thriller girlies, that specifically does not include Frida McFadden. We don't support plagiarism over here, okay? Alleged plagiarism, that's not my thing. So goodbye, Miss Frida. The next prompt is your newest fictional crush, and I have to go to one of my favorite romances that I read this year, and that is Twice Shy by Sarah Hogle. Oh my god, I love this book. This is about two super awkward, super shy, kind of like undiagnosed neurodivergent characters who are left a property by someone they both knew who passed away, and she is like kind of doing some sneaky matchmaking by leaving them both this property, and they are going through it. Obviously they're both grieving, but they're also wanting to ready this house, but they have very, very different purposes for wanting to use this house for like different things, but now they co-own it, so they have to kind of compromise on something. They get off on the wrong foot, but they end up, of course, finding more than just common ground. They are falling in love, and they're both like so shy and so cute, and I honestly have the biggest bisexual crush on both of them because I just love little awkward weirdos. Like, they just have my heart. I think they're so cutie. So if you want to just cry and love a little weird couple, you gotta read Twice Shy. Next up, we have my newest favorite characters in general, and I have two answers for this because one of them, she's a character, but she's not a human. So I wanted like a backup answer in case she doesn't count. Annie from Annie Bot. She's an AI robot assistant. Following the lens of AI, I never knew it could be so intriguing. I am obsessed with this book. I think it's so unique. I think it is so now, so innovative, so thrilling, so emotional. It is just everything, okay? I feel like Stefan from SNL, but like this book is everything. It literally is everything, and Annie is everything to me. I'm obsessed with her. I would die for her even though she is fucking AI. And my human pick for my favorite character that I've read from this year is honestly every single unhinged crazy woman in this book, How Can I Help You by Laura Sims. This is one of my new favorite good for her thrillers. We are following a killer nurse who she thinks she got away with her crimes. She's completely fled the town where she committed these murders, and she started over as a librarian in a new small town. So obviously we're like trying to get to know her, and she's a little unhinged. Obviously she's a murderer, she's like wild, but she has her reasons, and you would think like we were going to be rooting for her, and at sometimes we do. Like, it's kind of like You by Caroline Kepnes, where for some reason you're like kind of rooting for the murderer. But then we have this other perspective of this girl that is on her case. She starts working at the library and she's like, there's something going on with this woman over here. And then we start rooting for her. So we have like these competing interests. Both of these characters are so strong. They're strong women, they're weird women, they're unhinged women. Like, I absolutely love both of them, and I love this book in general. It's one of my favorite thrillers of this year. Next up, we have a book that made you cry, and of course, that's gotta be This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. This is another one that I read on a plane, and I cried on the freaking plane. Every plane that I'm on, people probably think that I am the unhinged woman on the plane because I'm always sobbing, but this book was just so good. Yes, it is a romance. Kennedy Ryan writes romances, but I feel like it's more than just a romance because we're really following our main character fall in love with herself after she is separated from her husband. And then in the latter, like act 2-ish and 3, we are following her fall in love with someone new and reinvent herself after she's already found herself. And I love that the male love interest gives her space to do that and is so supportive of her showing up for herself and her kids first. It was just so emotional, so beautiful. It says so much about not only what it's like to be a woman, but what it's like to be a woman of color in relationships. I just have so much love for Soledad, our main character of this book, and I would die for her as well. And I sobbed reading this book. Next up, we have a book that made you happy or made you laugh, and I don't read a lot of books that really aim to inspire joy and laughter, but I kind of picked like a darkly funny, ironic, weird book because that's the closest that I can get without picking like a fluffy little romance. And honestly, rom-coms don't like really make me laugh out loud. So I went with another 5-star read from 2024, which is Death Valley by Melissa Broder. Melissa Broder's hit or miss for me, I'll be totally honest. She writes like weird feminist fiction, and I absolutely love that on the surface, but some of it, I don't know, it's just like not my cup of tea. It feels like a little vapid LA girl, and like I think it's supposed to be ironic, but it doesn't always read as ironic kind of way. But Death Valley is different, and this book talks so candidly about grief, about developmental trauma, about attachment relationships, about like really deep and meaningful things, and the commentary is great, but sometimes she writes about them in such a flippant, darkly funny way, like sarcastic, ironic. Her voice just shines through the character in this book, and even though I was laughing and like I thought this book was ridiculous, it's also like deeply meaningful. And there's also an element of survival horror in here. So if you're thinking, you know, this sounds like literary fiction, this sounds like weird, it's not going to be for me, I think if you like trippy horror, you will really like this, because while it's about all of those things, really the plot of the book is we're following a woman journey into a cactus. Then she gets lost in the desert and she has to survive. And along the way, she learns about a lot of things about herself, but it's also about surviving in the desert, which I feel like a lot of people don't say that when they pitch this book. Lovers of survival horror, you will like this book. Next up, we have my favorite film adaptation of the year. I don't know if I watched any film adaptations this year so far. I'm thinking the most recent new release of an adaptation that I've watched is Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which obviously I loved. Like, Tom Blythe, I feel like, is this young generation's Draco, and we all know how Draco had an impact on young Hailey. So I'm very happy for all the youngins that went to go see Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and had a little like awakening moment. Good for all of you. We love the girlies, we love the gays, we love them all having their moment. Oh, I recently did rewatch Knock at the Cabin with Cameron because he had never seen it. If you don't know, that's the adaptation of the Paul Tremblay book, Cabin at the End of the World. And he loved it, I loved it. I just think that is such a great adaptation. It has the exact feel and the exact imagery that I was going through and picturing when I read the book. So it stays really true to the book in that way. But the gripes that I had about the plotting of the book, I feel like are much improved upon in the film. So absolutely, absolutely love that one. Getting into our last couple questions here, we have the most beautiful book on your shelves in 2024. And I have to say, that is Jackal. I mean, look at this cover. This book was not published in 2024, but she came into my life in 2024, and I also read her this year, and I cannot get over the beauty of this cover, also the beauty of this story. It's a speculative kind of like horror thriller about a town where every summer a little black girl goes missing, and our main character is not having it anymore. She is going to dig into why this is happening and why no one seems to care to solve the mystery, and it is engrossing. It is so interesting, so commentary heavy, yet so immersive. Like, it never takes you out of the story. Again, this is one where I love our female main character. Just really, really, really well done thriller plotting in here. And the last question is kind of general. It just says, what do you need to read by the end of 2024? Oh, girl, a fucking lot. Like half of these fucking books like on my shelves behind me. I don't know. Well, I definitely want to do a Fourth Wing reading vlog. I know, controversy, but I'm interested, okay? I feel left out. I want to read it, and I want y'all to like see that experience. So I'm definitely going to do a Fourth Wing vlog at some point. I will be reading Crescent City in the fall for sure. I want to do that slasher horror vlog with the new release like horror movie books that are coming out. I'm gonna have so many new release thriller vlogs on the latter half of this year, I'm sure. Oh, and I want to read all of the fun horror sequels that are coming out. I mentioned Clown in a Cornfield 3 earlier. That comes out in October. I also have the sequel to Night's Edge, which was one of my favorite horror books of 2023. That is called First Light. I'm literally looking at it. I literally want to read it so bad. And I have Tastes Like Candy 2, another slasher sequel, and The Final Slaughter, which is the last installation in the Slaughter trilogy by Sergio Gomez. I have both of those on my Kindle. So lots of good horror sequels, lots of fun summer slashers, new release thrillers, and some fantasy thrown in there. Those are my reading plans for the end of the year. So that is everything for my 2024 mid-year book freakout tag. I cannot believe we are halfway through 2024 in general, but also like the reading year. This is crazy. Let me know down below in the comments if there is anything that I absolutely need to read before the end of this year, anything that you want to see me vlog, anything that you specifically want like recommendations for, different tropes. I haven't done a top 12 Rex video in a while. I do have one coming out down the pipeline about cabin and camp horror. Very excited for that. I've been reading books to possibly put in that video for the past couple weeks, and I'm so excited to share them with you. But any other recommendations you are interested in from me, let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you got some good recs from it. And if you like this video, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!